Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you have pen and paper because I'm going to explain to you something that you weren't aware of.
My problem.
Welcome back. What?
Yep.
Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of Tinfoil Radio from the underground, undisclosed bunker somewhere.
He brought me Taco John's. It's really nice of him.
No, you got yourself Taco John, sir. I'm cheap.
Well, every time I ask you if you want some, you're like, no, I'm in a fucking bunker, dick. And I'm like, I know.
Get some real food,
over.
maybe like storable food, something we could use,
How about
not
like
a taco.
Preserves?
Now, don't get me wrong, I love pizza, I love tacos, I love all that stuff. But
you know, if we had a better ventilation system in the bathroom, you would all be all about the tacos.
Oh, if we did, no, let's be honest. If this were a real scenario where there was no ventilation in the bathroom, you would die.
No, I'm not saying there isn't.
Shits,
I'm saying better.
My shits are earth-shattering.
Well, that's why we keep the door closed.
Right. Anyway, so welcome back to another episode. For the time being...
this should be off-the-air issues. Anyway, sorry,
For the time being, the Hollywood Bunker Tour is taking a bit of a break, taking a little detour, if you will.
I thought we just finished.
Well, I thought it was going to be an...
It's a special occasion thing.
Yeah, it's like the Flat Earth things.
It's an exception that proves the rule.
It's like the Flat Earth Chronicles, which we will come back to soon, I promise, because I love talking about Flat Earth. It's great. We're getting back to... basics. Back to what we...
basics.
It's been about a month removed. Wow. It's hard. It's crazy to think how fast...
We did Hollywood the last 2 weeks, and then what did we do before that?
We did Mothman, and then before that we did Tiger King.
Oh, yeah, okay. Wow.
So that whole month of April we avoided...
We really needed a dose of really good stuff after that Alex Jones month, because that was a month.
Yeah, it's
of its own.
Yeah, it was a whole month because it's 4 episodes. It was a good palate cleanser. We're back to that because I just can't help it. I love talking about conspiracy figures. I love talking about conspiracies, but I really love talking about...
Well, the irony and hypocrisy is just hilarious.
Yeah, you could figure out...
If it wasn't so dangerous and scary.
Right, and you could figure out
because
how
these
easy
are
it
actual
is...
human beings.
...to avoid responsibility in that world where you could just say... Well, somebody did the research, couldn't find anything. Oh, that's because the government doesn't want you to see it. You know, like they just keep changing the grift.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And today will be no different. I promise you that.
Can I give you a great example? Okay, obviously we don't want to talk about it a lot, but we're still doing the thing, you know. And here's my take. It's
I like how you avoided saying it so someone didn't have to drink.
It's really, if you've been on a rock, you don't know what I'm talking about. But seriously, you should.
COVID-19 drink.
Sure. Yeah, right. Conservatives, right? We're the ones like banging on the fucking drum and
trying
shit.
To downplay,
trying to reopen, you know, because small businesses are going to fail, guys.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if you've seen, but some states have reopened, but given businesses the option to stay closed if they want. And a lot of these businesses that are staying closed are getting approached by like armed fucking customers and shit.
Yeah.
So... You see how at one point it's like this and then it's like this because it suits whatever they're feeling that day.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when the Packers, right before the draft, like every Packers fan you knew would be like, oh, I'll pick Aaron Rodgers over Matt LaFleur any day.
Why are you bringing this up?
And then right after the draft, Matt LaFleur knows what he's doing. Aaron Rodgers is just going to have to live with it, man.
You'll never be on that show again. You will never. He's also referring to Loud Sports.
I do care, but...
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Let it go.
We've
all moved on.
It's the same kind of thing. You will move your center as long as it suits you.
Yeah, you actually touched on a great point.
Which means that you don't have a center is the point.
You made a good point when you said that the narrative changed on their emotions that day because
it's whatever they're told that day.
If you want to make money in this business, you have to always appeal to emotion. No matter what, you always have to appeal to emotion.
You know why these guys are really good, though? How many times do you hear Rush, Hannity, or any of these guys go, Not a lot.
Oh, I hear it a lot.
Hardly ever. No.
Rush does it all the time.
Really?
Yeah. He does that a
Well,
lot.
yeah, but when he's trying to make a pointer, I'm saying like most of the time when he's telling his...
I guess that's when he takes calls.
When
Whatever.
he's telling
Point
his
is-
sheep what to do, he doesn't falter. That's a good skill.
We're going to shift gears into someone who broke into the mainstream for a while and was a big name.
I remember this guy.
Before we get to that, I do want to say I forgot to do this last week. I introed it last week, but we never did it. I wanted to talk about positive things that are happening right now.
Okay.
And so real quick, I'll just
I
say
flew a kite yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that. How was it?
It was raining a little bit, so the wetness didn't help. And then I couldn't quite get like a good stream of air of wind. You know what really sucks about talking about flying kites is it sounds exactly like you have a erectile dysfunction.
Yeah. Couldn't
Like,
get
oh
enough
man,
momentum.
I was out in the yard yesterday and I was
Couldn't get it
trying
up?
to get it up. I couldn't keep it up. I would get it up for a little bit and then it would come back down.
The wind could be somebody blowing on
I'll
it.
tell you what, man, I just could not get it up that day. And it sounds exactly like, well, have you heard about the little blue pill?
I gotta say, I'm exercising more technically because, I mean, I hate that because I'm having coffee and coffee makes me jittery and I get excited.
Also, I'm super attractive, and
I'm like a little squirrel.
So he's sitting over there just trying.
But
to
what I'm
contain
trying
himself.
what I'm saying is that I've been exercising more because I've been just walking my dog twice a day, and it might not seem like a lot, but it's something.
Beforehand, you probably didn't. I mean,
yeah, and now he can go to the
didn't
dog
have
park.
a dog either.
Yeah, and now he's going
But
to
still,
which he's been a blessing because even though he's still a puppy and he
tries.
does puppy things, he's for the most part a good dog, and he keeps me sane because I have somebody to hang out with.
Yeah, and most people who get puppies, I think, hopefully understand like what they're getting into, and you certainly did. You understood that, hey, this is going to be a really rambunctious guy.
It's work, man.
Every minute. It's not exactly like a child, but
It's pretty much
close.
like having
it's
a kid.
close.
I'm not gonna. I hate
Right,
when
we're not
people get
gonna-
worked up about that, but I will tell you this: he operates exactly like a
I'm
newborn
sure he wakes
baby
you up in
does.
the middle of the night, doesn't he?
Not anymore. He
Oh.
sleeps through the night now.
See, there you go.
He's
And
just an
learning.
accelerated version of a baby because when
Right.
we first got him, he was very much like he was 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise I'm not going to keep talking about my dog too long here. But
So positive though.
that's the positives. He was 2 months when we got him.
This is when our ratings take a nosedive, by the way.
And
Positive.
he was very much like a newborn baby where he operated on a thing of where, and he still does now. He sleeps a lot because he's a baby and he's still growing. He's only 4 months old. And so he's still learning how to do things, but we've been training him. He's been doing fetch and stuff, and he can go to the dog park now.
I've seen the
which
difference.
is great.
I've seen the difference from when you first got him.
He's still got a lot of. There's still a lot of work to be done.
He
But
wouldn't even come near me when I first came around, and now he can't get enough of me.
he's gotten very social, even in these
That's good.
quarantine times.
That's good.
So there's a positive for me,
Yes.
and I promise,
I love your dog.
if you follow me on social media, I will never bring the dog up unless he does something that will ruin the podcast while we're recording. Because I know people probably get annoyed with how much I talk about my dog.
Do you talk about your dog a lot?
I post a lot of pictures of him.
Oh yeah, but I mean, on the show here, you don't.
No, but I'm just saying.
This
I
is
know
the first time you mentioned it ever.
most of the people that listen to this probably follow me on social media.
Oh, do they?
So they're probably annoyed. Yeah, I have a lot of followers.
lot of followers. I've been verified.
Speaking of which, you can follow Tinfoil Radio on Twitter at tinfoil_radio, and we just opened up our Facebook page. So go on and like that.
And he texted me earlier
Tinfoil
this week
Radio,
and said,
Facebook.
"Hey, I'm going to give you admin status so you can post shit." And I'm like, "Are you sure?"
Do it, buddy.
Good
Anyway.
times.
So let's get
Good
to,
times.
we spent about 9 minutes messing around. Any other positive thing you want to add real quick?
I just, I try to remain as negative and pessimistic and realist as I am. I have been generally cautiously optimistic throughout this thing. the reason why
I've
I'm
been
cautious is
sorry.
because I see a lot of the people who should be making the right decisions not. However, on the street level with like people in communities and everything, I see a lot of helping and cooperation and communication and you know, so that to me, every time something happens like this big to the human race, like you see good and bad, you know. So I try to remember more of the positives than anything else.
Yeah.
But which is not me, so it's hard because sometimes
I've been doing
I'm just
a lot
like,
of
motherfuckers.
One final quick positive.
Yep.
I'm not going to really elaborate on it very much.
Your dog?
Yeah, but it's my dog is the third positive.
I
No,
thought you said you were gonna shut the fuck up about your dog.
I've actually been very self-reflective.
Me too. Well, I've always been.
But that's why I like going on the walks with the dog, because it allows me to think and allows me to reevaluate myself and do all those things. And I think a lot of people are doing that in these times, and I think that's good. I think this is as crazy as it sounds and how it has been bad for a lot of people, and it's been tragic at people losing their businesses and people dying. But I think this can be a good thing for a lot of mental health. Right. And I know that sounds silly that a nationwide lockdown would help people with their mental health and self-reflection, but maybe that's where we're at, you know? And again, horrible things happen, but there doesn't mean there couldn't be good things. So think about that. Always look for the positive.
Always look on the
bright side of life. You know who doesn't look on the bright side of life? Glenn Beck. Hey, yes.
You son of a bitch.
Look at that segue. We are once again talking about another con man in the world of conspiracy. This week we begin our journey into the career of a very angry, chubby man. Before you say that I'm body shaming, do remember I am a chubby man myself, so I can call him chubby, but you can't, Tyler. That's just the rules. All right?
It's kind of like me being able to say, well, when we get
like
to the
a bald guy.
When we get to the next portion, we'll expound on that.
But yes, today we're talking about the wacky chalkboard loving Colonel Sanders looking Glenn Beck.
You needed to say Colonel Sanders looking motherfucker.
Yeah, but see, it loving and looking just worked so well.
Chalkboard loving Colonel Sanders looking. Yeah, I get you.
So we're going to be talking about mostly his early career, right up to him starting the Glenn Beck radio program. So this is going to be his early career stuff, a little bit of his past, and I don't have it all written on the rundown here, but I did do some further research on his early life, and I think it's very telling. And granted, I'm speaking in generality. Is that a word?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I've just never, because when I heard it, I think of Anchorman. That's why.
Generalities or generalizations.
Yeah.
Either way.
Painting with a broad brush.
I'm a smart motherfucker.
Yeah. Anyway, it's very vague because I didn't delve too much in the details, but it does say kind of shapes who he is as a grifter.
Yes.
So it is worth mentioning he did battle alcohol and drugs, and he went to rehabilitation for it, and he conquered it, which I do think is commendable. We should say that is a good thing that he got over his addictions and his demons. That's great.
No.
It's just I don't understand.
Well, I got to
talk
here about this. I'm really glad that when I was kind of reading ahead, because I like to read ahead.
Yeah.
And I was really glad when I saw this because I can talk about Mike Lindell also.
Of My Pillow?
Yeah.
Mike Lindell.
His big thing is how he conquered crack addiction. Well, now he's one of those people who's
Wait.
What?
You said he conquered something. What did he conquer? Because I just remembered I have something for that.
Oh, he conquered... You know what he conquered? It was...
crack cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've smoked
cocaine.
crack. It's awesome. Crack is rad, man.
Sorry about that. That awkward delivery there. I was trying to.
Have I told the story about the old couple?
Yeah, you've told me that.
No, on air.
No, we're not talking about that.
That's fine.
Talk about Mike Lindell. Keep on
the thing is Mike Lindell and he's very much like Glenn Beck, and a lot of these guys. They seem Governor Reynolds is another one of them. They seem to act like having that addiction and then overcoming it makes them like impervious to criticism. And I just gotta tell you, fucking no, it fucking doesn't.
I don't think
No,
that,
it doesn't. And furthermore,
I don't
if
think
you,
Glenn Beck brings it up unless it's pertinent
You're right.
to the story that he's trying to. Yeah, so I'll give him credit for that. He doesn't
But
make
I'm
a big deal
saying
about it.
because he dealt with it and he conquered it. He's got this attitude of like, of that kind of. There's a lot of conservatives like that who battled addictions
Right.
and conquered them. Rush Limbaugh is another one of them. I battled drug. Yeah, well, you were kind of dealing too. But anyway, what I'm saying is Mike Lindell got clean. Good for him. Honestly, really good for him. My problem is that now he's actively fighting against and donating to people who vote against programs for people who are addicted and poor people and people who need help. And it's kind of like, why are you like that? Why do you I got help but you don't need it or you can't have any? I don't get that.
Yeah,
and that pisses me off as somebody who is a recovering alcoholic and addict, is that I have retained my compassion for everybody. I still have compassion for conservatives.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they know what they say, honestly. But that really pisses me off. It's like, why are you like that? If you're such a godly person, and if you ever see those commercials, he's got that giant fucking wooden cross over his tie.
Yeah.
If you are, then do what is talked about. The meek and all that. But anyway, that's what bugs me. And furthermore, you were talking about you can call him a chubby man because you're a chubby man.
Yeah.
Well, I can call him a fucking alcoholic degenerate asshole because I'm an alcoholic degenerate asshole.
There you go. So Beck began his
Hang on, let me get off my soapbox. All right, cool.
Beck began his career in Corpus Christi, Texas, working for radio station KZFM in 1983, where he served as the morning show host / program director there until 1985. But that wasn't the Glenn Beck that we know now. No, he really didn't incorporate politics into his show. He was mostly focused on trying to deliver good, fun radio.
That's admirable.
Yeah, and as someone who loves that medium and works in that medium, it is nice to see someone appreciate it. And that I will say that I may not agree with Glenn Beck's politics. I may not agree with. I definitely don't agree with their politics of Rush Limbaugh. At least they're guys that love the medium, and you can tell that they do love the medium because. And I don't have it here in the rundown, but Beck talks about what got him into radio was listening to War of the Worlds, the Orson Welles play, radio play. And from that moment on, he wanted a career in radio, and he absolutely fell in love with it. And to that respect, I think that's pretty cool. And I'll give him some credit. If he would have stuck on this path, who knows? Maybe he could have been. No, he couldn't. He doesn't have the charisma. I was going to make a joke that he could be like Stern, but Stern is so much better than Glenn Beck in any fashion.
Stern is made for radio, man.
Well, yeah, and
he was
going to be the guy that was going to be the king of, and we'll explain this in a minute, but he was the king of being in the morning zoo guy. Yeah. There was nobody that was going to top him.
The morning zoo with Ira and the douche, crazy Ira and the douche.
We'll explain morning zoos here in a second because it's important to Glenn Beck's story.
It's not that they opened a zoo in the morning and then closed it by noon. It's not that.
After his stint he actually moves around the country a lot. After his stint with KZFM, he ended up at WKRA in Louisville, Kentucky. Again, not getting into politics, being more of an FM guy. He was doing shock jock style stuff. And then he left after a dispute with management. So, again, jumping around the country. The funny thing about this story is trying to imagine Glenn Beck as a shock jock.
Well,
I mean, he technically is, but in a different way because with his politics. But I'm trying to imagine
with fart
him.
noises is different than shocking with dead children. So,
and I don't.
It's a little different.
I don't see Glenn Beck bringing on porn stars to ride a Symbian. The thing where they sit on that vibrates.
Yeah. No, I know what it is.
When he used to bring porn stars on to do that.
Never watched porn.
Glenn Beck didn't do that.
No, he probably
wouldn't do that.
Well, I don't think
Couldn't
Howard
do that.
Stern started doing that until he got onto XM, did he?
No, yeah, it wasn't until XM.
Right. So, I mean, it's not like
no, but what
he did get fined
you know what
a
I
lot
mean?
by
Like,
the FCC for all sorts of shit.
But I'm talking about Stern's stunts. I'm talking about just
yeah.
his nature of doing stuff like that. With it may not have been that, but I mean, just like anything in
Do you remember
private
Fart
parts.
Man?
No.
Look it up.
Underrated movie. I'm just kidding.
No, it's
Private Parts is okay.
you'll cringe.
I was talking about Private Parts. What are you
No, I'm
talking
talking about. I know. I've never seen it.
You never seen Private Parts?
I didn't have any really desire to.
I don't know. As a radio geek, I thought you'd probably like it, but
Well, yes and no. I will say
I'm not going to review Private Parts.
No, I love WKRP and I love News Radio. Those are two of my favorite shows.
WNBC.
And they do a lot of radio stuff. They're both radio.
I have not
radio-based
watched
comedies.
News Radio or WKRP.
Well, what the fuck?
I should.
Why are we talking?
I'm sure I can find it on YouTube. Anyway,
It's on a lot of the streaming
oh really?
platforms, like the free ones. Like it's on Roku and Tubi and Crackle. And I know you don't do
Tubi. Ugh.
Come on.
Anyway,
Do you know you can find avocado women in the jungle of death on that? Starring Shannon Tweed, wife of Kiss's Gene Simmons. Come on. Former Playmate. Yeah.
so as we mentioned, Glenn Beck wasn't like other conservative talk radio hosts, or like a Limbaugh or Hannity. He started working in these FM stations, or at these FM stations, and was what they call a morning zoo host. And a morning zoo host is essentially what we're talking about with what a shock jock is, and with Howard Stern. I worked on a morning zoo show. They're actually a lot of fun to do and produce, but they're essentially just hosts doing weird, wacky, silly shit. That's all it is.
Well, yeah.
It's the stereotypical.
It's generally drive time, which in most places is like, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m.?
Yeah, most places.
Which is generally called, in our industry, drive time. And that is...
You've made it in radio if you're a morning show host.
Basically, because that is when everybody is, quote-unquote, in their cars. Now, it's changed a little bit with, streaming and being able to play like Spotify in your own car and podcasts. Yeah. But it still generally is the rule that 5 to 9 a.m. is the sweet spot.
Uh-huh.
If you've made it there, man, you've got it. And the thing is to maintain that almost, I think most people, if they turn on the radio that listen to those types of shows, I don't think they would really respond well to a show that wasn't zany and wacky.
Right.
Because it's the morning time.
You're
They're
supposed
trying
to
to wake
me
up. Yeah.
Right.
So in I don't really approve of those types of shows. I'm sure they're great, but I just don't listen to them.
I grew up,
but I know why they are what they are.
I grew up listening to Z92. Shout out to Z92 in Omaha. Todd and Tyler is what I would listen to occasionally.
Oh, you listen to my old show. Cool.
With my dad.
I remember Todd. He was kind of a prick.
I've never met him. I briefly worked where they worked.
Be glad.
So that was cool. Never met him, though.
Wait, you what?
I said I worked where they used to work.
Oh, nice.
Or I used to work there, I mean.
I've never asked about your career in radio.
Oh. Well, they were the example that I had, that they were over the top and crazy, and they'd say things. I'm like, are you sure you could say that on radio? I don't know, that kind of thing.
And these guys honestly know the FCC regulations in and fucking out, dude.
And as someone
because it costs them money.
Oh yeah,
their own money.
As someone who used to work on a morning zoo show, I can tell you it is a lot of fun. It was some of the most fun I had working in radio, because I had a lot of creative freedom, and I got to flex my writing muscle, joke writing. I hadn't had a chance to write comedy in a long time, so I wrote a lot of bits, and I wrote a lot of different things, and it was a lot of fun.
Like the Boba Fett lasagna?
No, not Boba Fett lasagna. I'm sure I have some somewhere. The bits I produced, but I was always proud of that. So as someone that's worked on it, I get the appeal of it to some people, and I understand the reason why some people don't listen to it. Some people might think it's annoying, because there's that balance. Either somebody's going to love it or somebody's going to hate it, and Glenn Beck was weirdly in that genre for a brief period of time.
There are portions and types of media that I don't really quote unquote approve of, which who gives a shit what I approve of or don't, honestly. But one of the things that I am really indifferent about is two of the things is right now, like every station has like a daytime women's talk show like The View or The
Oh,
Talk.
yeah.
I don't have a problem with that, although they get really political, and Meghan McCain is on one, whatever, blah,
Oh,
blah,
man.
blah.
Meghan McCain.
And then the Morning Zoo type shows, generally they're harmless. They are
we were
still
never-
pretty misogynistic still, but in general, most of those shows have at least like 3 people on the air, and at least one of them is a woman.
No, yeah, that's a commonplace.
So, yeah, so I'm not, I mean, I really don't, in my search for social justice, that's not one of my targets.
All right, so Glenn Beck this is where his career kind of takes off, because he heads over to Phoenix to work for the station Y95 KOY FM.
Hey, coming up, Stone Temple Pilots tickets.
See, but you make that joke, but that's
what
I
they
miss
do.
stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no, that's how you kind
You
of
know how many times
talk.
I would be listening to music?
Hey, you're listening to 106.3 Des Moines' hottest alternative news station. Alternative news.
Alternative
Taste
facts.
the examples.
Wow.
Remember when I was doing that? That's how
Yeah.
Taste the Examples came about, ladies and gentlemen. I was going off one morning
That's
after
so,
he had done it overnight.
Glenn Beck hooks up with his co-host
His
Tim
VCR
Hattrick.
and starts playing Bull Durham.
So he hooks up with Tim Hattrick to start his new morning show. Let me just say, someone on the internet unearthed this TV commercial for this radio station, and I have the audio for it.
You have the video over there?
I don't have the video. I just have the audio.
Okay.
If you want.
Oh, well, yeah, it's a radio commercial. Duh.
Well, it was made, but it was on TV for some reason.
Oh.
Because apparently that was a thing in the 80s. But anyway, listen to this. This
maybe.
is Glenn Beck
I've seen it before, yeah, go ahead.
and Tim Hattrick talking about their new show on Y95.
The new Y95 Morning Zookeepers, Glenn Beck and Tim Hattrick.
We told our bosses right up front, we don't need gimmicks to sell the new Y95.
We've got a better mix of music. Great DJs who don't yak too much.
Plenty of easy contests for you to win lots of free money.
And more continuous music.
Plus the new Morning Zoo with us, Glenn and Tim.
195 airborne traffic
And
report.
special zoo guests.
Yeah, you never know who will drop
So
in.
hey, with all that to offer on the new Y95, who needs gimmicks?
The new Y95 means music and very few gimmicks.
Wow.
Did they actually call their show The Morning Zoo?
I could never actually find the name.
Because I heard those 2 words spoken in that clip
Well,
at
the-
some point.
They didn't call it that. They just
Yeah.
said, with
I
new
was gonna
morning
say, I'm
zoo
like,
hosts.
Come on, come up with something else.
So yeah, that's just
Interesting.
You know, you talk about a beautiful time capsule. The 1980s. What a time in
Like I said,
American history.
You know why I don't really have a problem with those types of shows? Because they bring a lot of joy to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And to me, that's good. You know, it doesn't. They don't really.
Yeah.
You know,
Man,
unless you are truly just offended by everything, you're not really gonna. Nobody's really gonna listen to that and be like, my life was ruined. I can listen to Rush Limbaugh and he'll ruin my life. No, just kidding.
So, as you can tell, Beck was a part of the wacky morning show
Hey,
market
coming up, we
of
got
the
tickets
19.
The Doors revival, The Windows, coming up on Wells Fargo.
Did you say
Arena.
the Doors revival, the Windows?
Yeah, well, hey, listen, cover bands, like professional cover bands, they got to have something that sounds kind of,
Jeez. Okay. So Glenn Beck.
Have you never heard of Hell's Bells?
Yes,
It's an
I know.
all-
What you're talking about, and like
alright.
Hairball and all that.
Right, but Hell's Bells is an all-female version of AC/DC.
No, I did not know of that.
Well, that's the point. Hell's Bells,
I don't-
BELLES.
I don't care about Hell's
Fucking
Bells.
Christ. I don't know why I open my mouth. Hey, coming up, we got tickets. Led Zeppelin.
Will Jake fire me? We'll find
You
out.
can win Janet Jackson tickets.
I have mild depression.
The rhythm.
All right, so
I drink a lot.
so Glenn Beck began to develop an on-air feud with radio host Bruce Kelly of KZZP.
And these are fucking hilarious.
Beck and Kelly had known each other for years, though. They originally met when both of them joined WPGC. I love all the radio call letters in this rundown.
Right. Hey, did
in
you
Washington,
know-
D.C., early in Beck's career.
Did you know why stations west of the Rockies start with a K? And stations east of the Mississippi River start with a W.
Yeah.
That's why we know that Bruce Kelly was somewhere over on the West Coast.
There you go. Radio lesson.
I learned that was one of the first lessons they taught us. They taught us like the origins of radio and shit, like very first thing in school. That was one of the things. Was they told us how daylight savings time was basically for farmers.
Yeah.
During the winter time.
Yeah.
And it's like great. Asshole.
So Beck and Kelly
making us food and shit, keeping us fed.
This is like almost like a wrestling storyline. This story.
That's why these are so fun, though.
Yeah. So Beck and Kelly forged their bond in one snowy night on Valentine's Day.
Wow. Both
were stuck at the station overnight. Which, you know what's funny is I've had that happen. I've been stuck at the station overnight, and some might say, "Hey, that'd be boring," or "That would be fun to be at a radio station." It's boring at night. There's nobody here.
Really is.
It's kind of scary.
It is.
They pass time by passing each other joints in their Mormon program director's office. They even went on air because of the weather and how snowy it was. It's a blizzard. They have to talk about it, and this is the thing. They probably worked in a news station that had to pass this along. Well, maybe no. I guess FM stations do this too.
Well, you know what?
I don't know. So anyway, they were still trying to do radio.
Coming up after this, we'll have an answer to that question.
Yeah, they couldn't do that
KZOD.
Because they would do that, and then the other guy would be like and laugh in the background. They were just I don't know why they thought that was a good idea, but they had trouble hosting because they were so high. And when the program director finally came in the next morning, she told them to go home. And this is what Kelly said about that oddly bromantic night on Valentine's Day.
Why? Ooh.
Quote, when the manager came in that morning, she thought we were laughing out of exhaustion, but we were just really stoned. End quote. I'm just trying to picture Glenn Beck stoned.
All I got to say about Beck and Kelly after reading this story and hearing it is fucking amateurs. Why are you smoking in the program director's office?
Yeah, first of all,
fucking car. What the fuck?
Or don't do it.
Sure, that's sure.
That's number one. But if you do it, don't do it in your boss's office.
I gotta be honest. Part one never occurred to me. I was like, dude, they're gonna do it. You should do it.
You gotta pass the time.
But you gotta go to the car, man. I mean, and then also,
that would make it worse though. They get tired.
How do you fucking see your program director in the? I never have seen my program director in the morning ever.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I have to make it a point to go see him. Honestly. Anyway.
Which is, probably the case in most workplaces.
They thought we were just laughing out of exhaustion. Turns out we were just really stupid.
Eventually, the two parted ways to different radio jobs until both ended up in Phoenix at rival stations.
KZZP, Phoenix, Arizona, west of the Mississippi.
Hey.
Coming up west of the Mississippi, KZZP.
Wow. So this is where this
never gets old.
Dark. And most of the first part of this episode, you're okay with Glenn Beck. You don't have any issues with him. And this is, in my research, this is where it took the turn for me. Because the story I'm about to tell you, what he does is just unbelievably
holy fucking shit.
Terrible, okay?
Wow.
So
I just read ahead.
Yeah. This was a pleasant competition between these two. I don't know if they mentioned directly the stations they worked at or they addressed each other directly, but there was, ribbing and having some fun, which I don't have an issue with. That makes, like you said, makes it more fun. It's harmless. You're having a great time. Then it got really dark. Kelly criticized Beck's War of the Worlds segment that they did. So
did he do a revival, or was it a jokey thing? Or
so on Halloween, Tim Hattrick and Glenn Beck had a special episode that they did where it was War of the Worlds. So I'm assuming
that's cool.
I'm assuming they played just the radio play. I don't know, but
no, they probably performed it.
Maybe.
That's my guess.
I couldn't find any audio of it.
It sounds like Glenn Beck. That was one of his big deals.
And this is why
it wouldn't surprise me if I was him and I was in that. I totally would have been like, let's find the scripts and let's get people in here and let's recreate it, man. That would be so fucking fun, dude.
That's important to note, and that's why I brought it up.
That's one of the only times Glenn Beck and I intersect in terms of.
But it's important to know War of the Worlds, and that's why I mentioned it earlier. That was a crucial thing in his childhood that thrusted him into this world. and it meant a lot to him. So that's why I think maybe they did record it and did the full thing. I don't know.
That'd be cool. It wouldn't surprise me.
That would be cool.
If he's on a morning show, he probably has the resources to get it done.
Right. Yeah.
And if he loves it that much, that's kind of like a dream come true.
So yeah, Kelly called it a lame ripoff.
You're gonna soon hear a nightmare come true. Here you go.
Yeah. And I understand. This is this is where that's what I'm telling you. This is the fork in the road. This is where you're like, oh, this is the left turn, I guess, where it's like, oh, he's not bad. Oh, this is why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
So this would probably be one of the worst things Beck has done on air.
Notice it says one of. That means he does other things.
Oh, we'll get into
just
that.
Just know that.
In the next episode.
Yeah. In the next episode. Just chill.
Till the next episode. So he calls Bruce Kelly's wife, Terry. Are you done?
Yes. So give me the microphone first so I can bust like a bubble.
Why do I do this with you?
Let's go.
We get on a roll.
I'm trying to be positive because what you're about to hear is fucking awful. It is.
I'm not mad at you, Tyler. I'm just joking. Get back to your corner of the bunker.
It's a capital S, so yes.
So somehow Glenny Beck got Bruce Kelly's
Glenny Beck.
Glenny
He's
Beck.
trying to find his place on the paper. He was just Glenny.
Well, I was calling him Glenny B the other day.
Glenn B.
GB, Glenny B.
Let's not give him a nickname. That
no,
humanizes him.
that's fun calling him Glenny B.
Awful. Yeah, Glenny.
Fuck you, Glenn.
Hey,
Beck.
Glenny. What the fuck? Okay.
So he called Bruce Kelly's wife Terry after she had a miscarriage.
He didn't call her Terry. Her name is Terry.
He called her after she had a miscarriage. And he said, whew, boy, he said this. And I paused because this is just horrible and no human being should ever do this. Quote, "We hear you had a miscarriage." Oh, jeez. So Terry responded and said yes. And then Beck proceeded to joke that Bruce apparently can't do anything right. He can't even have a baby. So I didn't quote all of it. I paraphrased.
What the fuck?
But he calls this woman and says, "We heard you had a miscarriage." And she says yes, hoping, hey, maybe this could be like a nice moment of solidarity from, you know, a guy like Glenn Beck who's been going back and forth with Bruce Kelly. Like, this could have been a beautiful way to say, hey, I know I have problems with your husband, but I'm sorry, whatever. Do that. First of all, if you're going to actually do that and be genuine, do it in private. Don't ever fucking bring that up on air.
And, okay, and I am not, I gotta say, Terry, you know that your husband is in a feud with Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck calls you, and by FCC rules, he has to tell you that you're going to be on the air.
Yeah.
So you're aware of the fact that he's calling you, maybe not why, but he's calling you and you're going to be on the air.
But that's what I'm saying.
And
maybe
he's a rival of your husband's.
Yeah,
Why
Tyler,
don't you just hang up the fucking phone?
Tyler, she's also could be thinking
that doesn't change the fact that Glenn Beck is a fucking dick.
No, you're not being genuine in that analysis because you know who Glenn Beck is now. Glenn Beck then was a different person.
But didn't she, I mean, was it a feud that she knew about? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe she didn't.
Okay.
Who knows? I don't know.
And I am not
I know.
victim blaming
You are
at
not.
all. I'm just saying in my shoes, I would have been like,
you're not
hung up the phone.
You're not victim blaming, but you do pose the thing of like, well, she should have maybe had a little bit of.
And
but
I don't want to do that.
That's not what you're meaning. That's not what you're getting at. You're saying if that were you in the situation.
Yes.
And
yes,
that would be. That's also assuming that she listens to her husband's show. She probably didn't. Right. Not a lot of wives listen to their husband's show.
Who knows? I mean, we don't know. We don't know all the aspects.
I know Ashley doesn't
all
listen to this show.
All that matters is that the ultimate, the negative, the possibly one of the most awful things you can say to another human being about something that like that subject was perpetrated by Glenn Beck. Whether or not she answered the phone or not, he probably would have done something.
We're not saying it's her fault. None of that. No, at all. No. This is all him. And maybe my thought process with that is I'm assuming she thought that he was giving an olive branch because she probably
And that
assumed
might
that
have been
he
very
was
true as well.
a normal, decent human being.
They might have said to her, "Hey Terry, you know what? Glenn wants to bury the hatchet. He heard about the bad news, and if it's okay, he'd like to bury the hatchet
we don't
with
know
you on the air."
We don't know what was said off air. They could,
But we do know, because we're radio professionals, that you do have to tell somebody that they're going to be on the air before they're on the air.
Yeah.
That's a rule. You can't. You used to be able to back in the day call people and prank them without telling them they were on the air, but not anymore.
So yeah, that's horrible. Calls her up, says, "We hear you have a miscarriage." She says, "Yes." And he says, "Man, Bruce can't even get anything right. He can't even have a baby."
Did we really need to repeat it again?
No, I want to repeat it again so you remember
How much of a dick he is?
he's always been a pile of shit, is what I'm trying to say.
That's cool. I can dig it.
This was the first of many personal attacks Beck would make throughout his career. There's a long, comprehensive list of that on MediaMatters.org. They have
On our
a huge
website.
thing. Not on our website. I could I mean, I could make a post on Facebook.
What? You know what we should really do is
Get a website? Yeah.
No, on Facebook. Like whenever we have like a show, like, hey, after the show, check out the special chart that Tyler created using, some serious material. And every time it'll
It's
be
just
like
a
a
penis.
fucking piece of like notebook paper with like a crayon drawing of a bad graph. It'll just be that.
Just be like bars.
It
or
won't,
like
even,
a
it
pie
won't even
chart.
have like a Y or an X. It'll just be a fucking 90-degree angle with a big squiggly line in the middle.
Here's my graph.
Here's my graph. It explains everything we were talking about.
So after
We're multimedia.
So after that, yeah, you don't really come back from that. And I don't think... Now, this wasn't the...
Do we know that he left Y95 or got fired? Do we know, or does it matter?
I think it was a mutual departure
Probably.
because of what happened.
At that point, you're going to give him deep shit.
Not much later after that incident, Beck left Y95 for a job in Houston, KRBE, or Power
94. Wait.
104.
Power 104.
Whoa!
See, that's why I'm not in radio. I mean...
Which is weird because now, usually when you see Power, it's usually like hip-hop stations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Weird.
I don't really know. Honestly, radio station names have never made a fucking difference to me. Because they just don't. There was a country station in Denver. It used to be this awesome
Bowl.
hip-hop station. And I can't remember what the hip-hop station was called, but the country station was called The Wolf. And it was like...
No, it's like Kiss. That's a nationwide.
That might be.
It's like a franchise name.
Yeah, could be.
It's like Kiss FM.
The two most profitable genres in radio right now
Country
are
and
country and
top
Spanish
40.
language.
Oh,
No,
Spanish.
language, yep.
It's because they have great reception, dude.
Sure, but they're...
I'm serious. Every Spanish station I've listened to or I've come across when I'm changing the dial comes in perfect. No matter where I am.
You'll hear them talking about how we don't want illegals in this country, but they've been profiting off of them for decades, folks. Just go look in your grocery store. Hey, what is this weird section of like baked goods that have weird names like Bimbo? What is that all about? Oh, that's weird. Somebody in America must be importing those to make sure that... Wow, that's...
Why do you always get on these weird soapboxes in the middle of the episodes?
It's called critical thinking.
Take your liberal bullshit
Take your liberal
somewhere
bullshit
else.
and shove it up your ass, you
Yeah,
fucking
you
snowflake.
All right, so he was fired shortly after for low ratings. Ha! I always laugh when you find out about that because, again, I'm not a huge fan of this person. Beck then made his way to Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Oh, I did. It is a typo. It says
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
No, I'm saying like that's how they say it. I watch a lot of The Wire.
It's Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Oh, whatever. Stop trying to get me to watch the fucking Wire, man.
Everybody who's listening to this, who is Jake's friend who loves The Wire, fucking barred him with
Text
emails.
him. Watch the Wire. Email.
Dude, why the fuck? It's free right
Facebook
now. It's free.
Oh, it's one of their HBO free things.
Yeah.
Do you know that they did that on Hulu too?
Yeah.
There's some HBO Unlocked.
We have Hulu, but it's also Roku has done all of them. But hey, this weekend on Roku, all HBO shows are streaming for free.
I need to check out.
Power 104.
I want to watch McMillions because that's on Hulu.
Which one?
McMillions. It's about the Monopoly McDonald. Well, I'm sorry I made that weird sound. Tyler gave me a really weird face as I was trying to say Monopoly. I was like trying to figure out what he was doing. I can't multitask, folks. So
Yeah, anyway.
Glenn Beck ends up in this where The Wire takes place. It works for
Bodymore Murderland.
WBSB, but also known as B104.
B104 here in Baltimore, playing the hits.
This is where
you get murdered.
This is where he would meet frequent collaborator who still works with him to this day on the Glenn Beck radio program, Pat Gray. Pat Gray even has his own show on The Blaze, folks. I know way too much stuff about Glenn Beck and his friends. This is where I have my mental breakdown of the episode. Back to the show. During his stint at P104, Beck was arrested and jailed for drunk driving his DeLorean. That's a real thing I just read.
Who went to jail?
Glenn Beck. Drunk driving his DeLorean. Awesome. I'm so glad you pay attention.
That is fucking awesome.
The station manager had The station manager had to bail him out of jail, and this, of course, led to his eventual firing. However, this is where the seeds of Glenn Beck we know were planted because...
Ew, I just thought of the seed of Glenn Beck, and it made me ill.
He does have children. Think about that.
No, does?
Gray and Beck got into trouble.
Why did we let him reproduce? Okay.
Gray and Beck went together to New Haven, Connecticut to work at the station WKCI-FM. Glenn was... and yes, every time I read a call letter, I have to say it like that.
WKCI-FM. This weekend, get Led Zeppelin tickets.
It's a non-stop music weekend.
Hearts in town with Def Leppard, and you can win tickets at the next Sound of the Fart. Coming up on WKCDI-FM Morning Zoo.
Did you hear my fart sounder?
Do it again.
That's the baby turd. So Glenn was still... I can't. I'm sorry.
Oh, shit. Oh, we almost went through it, but man, that was fucking weird.
Baby turd.
Baby turd.
The fucking station mascot is...
We are idiots.
All right, Glenn was still up to his shock jock antics. Because in 1995, WKCI, damn it, apologized for a segment that included Beck and Gray mocking an Asian American caller.
No.
And
I don't believe it.
Yeah, no, right? The guy who called and made fun of someone for having a miscarriage, he wouldn't do something mildly racist.
No.
They had their producer...
That's crossing the line.
They had their producer do a mock Chinese accent and a gong sound effect because subtlety. Eventually, Gray would leave the show and move to Salt Lake City. Beck continued working at
WKCI-FM here in New Haven, Connecticut, playing the hits.
I had a typo on my script. I got you. It's WKCI, and I put WCK.
New Haven. Ow! Your parents are rich, and you're a little shit. Listen to the hits.
Lick the fork and stick it in the socket.
Yeah.
Electrifying.
Hey.
Anyway.
Do you like rainbow hair? Here's how you get it. New Haven.
Glenn Beck worked at WKCI up until 1999.
Even after he mocked an Asian caller, he still lasted another 4 years. Let that be a lesson to you folks that it's only recently, if you notice, that people have been like, hey, we've been really racist to Asians too.
Well, if anything is the story, and you'll find out over these 3 episodes of Glenn Beck, he is a great example of as long as you're a white guy, you are going to still find work.
Fucking A, man. Did you see the guy who ran 2 miles with a TV under his arm?
No.
There was this guy after this thing that happened in wherever. It was Georgia. All I got to say is Georgia. It happened in Georgia. Okay.
We're not going to talk about it yet.
No, we're not. But this guy, to prove a point, because of something that was said about the Y, took a TV under his arm like he was stealing it and ran 2 miles in broad daylight, and not one cop stopped him. Hey, guess what? White guy.
White guy.
White guy on WKCI New Haven.
So, after his stint in Connecticut, Beck would land in sunny Tampa, Florida.
WFLA.
Wow. Welcome back to Tyler and
Jake. Show would be fun.
See, yeah.
Welcome back to Tyler and the Jake.
Tyler and the Jake. Welcome back to Bald and the Beard. I'm so glad you aren't sensitive.
Wait, do you think people would know? Do you think people would start thinking that you were my beard? Or wait,
that wasn't a thing in the 90s.
If you got married, that you would have a beard?
Who knows?
Bald in the beard. Hey.
I used to
You
do.
at least you didn't catch me 10 years ago. I would have been like, fuck you, man. I can't help it that I'm bald. Fuck you.
Well, a few years ago, we tried to do a podcast because I'm Jake Williams, and I've started 20,000 podcasts.
I'm Jake Williams.
I'm Jake Williams.
I'm Jake Williams. On WFLA.
I started to do one with my buddy Adam called Skinny in the Beard.
What was it called?
Skinny in the Beard because he's really skinny, and I have a beard. Did you get it? So Beck landed in Tampa.
Zing.
Working for WFLA and aired the first episode of the Glenn Beck radio program in 2000.
Just a year later, 9/11. Coincidence?
Maybe.
Hey, I'm just going. I'm just using his playbook, guys.
Just in case you're wondering, Glenn Beck has been doing this show for 20 years.
Yeah. And what I just did is exactly what guys like Glenn Beck do.
Yeah, exactly.
They take completely unrelated things and somehow convince you that they are related.
Think about it. You're not asking the right questions.
Listen, if Glenn Beck doesn't start his show in 2000, does 9/11 happen? It's a good question, isn't it? Now, I haven't said either way, but because my audience is so gullible, they've made the connection themselves.
Oh.
So it's like, ooh.
The show started at 18th place in its afternoon time slot.
That's not good.
Beck quickly made the show jump to first place with his popularity. And if I read it correctly, he did that in under a year. Like, he shot that rating up. So he finally is getting the success and notoriety he's always wanted. Right here in sunny Tampa, Florida.
FLA.
He became so popular he received syndication due to the want for live, news-oriented content after 9/11.
That's where I first saw him was on, I think he was on, I was working at a job that had a bunch of TVs, and one of them was on Fox News or something, and he was on there with his show. And that was when he didn't have a beard.
Before we end this episode, I have a confession to make about Glenn Beck. This was huge for Beck's career, and this helped launch what would become a lucrative TV career and a media empire. And that's where we'll pick up next week. However, before we go, I wanted to share with you some clips from the Glenn Beck radio program throughout the years. Disclaimer, a lot of these are going to be recent episodes because I got a lot of these from the Blaze's YouTube account. And the Blaze. Because believe it or not, like it is really hard to find some archived stuff. Because I wanted to go deep into like early 2000s stuff, and it was hard to find. I'm sure it's out there.
Oh yeah, you probably got to pay like some sort of subscription,
some
or
weird
shit
thing.
to
To get Glenn Beck's archive.
The archives. Get into the Glenn Beck vault here on WFLA. Hey.
Now, my confession about Glenn Beck
is that he loves him.
I used to watch Glenn Beck when I was younger.
I remember the episode I watched or whatever. Like he wasn't virulently like conservative at all. I remember that very distinctly, which was kind of why I was like, this is on Fox News. That's weird. But this was probably like 2006 or 7, maybe. I mean, I don't even think he had. I don't know. I don't know when he turned.
We'll talk about that next week because he jumps to Fox News in 2008, I think. If I remember, I think he did.
The reason why we called it the Blaze is because I'm pissed.
I'm on fire.
You know what's really funny though is that Blaze sounds like a place I would go to find a date if I were gay. The Blaze. Ooh, that sounds good. I'm gonna go there. And conservatives are like, yeah, the Blaze, I'm pissed.
But yeah, I came from a very conservative family.
You did?
Yes, and they loved Glenn Beck when he was on TV. So
In
I watched.
Nebraska?
Now, right?
I don't believe you.
Midwest, red? That's ridiculous.
You know, it's so funny. Every state I live in, I'm like, man, this is totally a liberal place. And then a vote happens. And I'm like, shit. God damn it.
It's true. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But you got to listen, though. Every state that I've been in has large swaths of areas that are considered rural. Now, yeah. There's different priorities in different places, right, Jake?
Yeah.
What is a priority for somebody who lives in, say, Tama? Is maybe not a priority.
Oh, absolutely.
For me.
I mean, look at the differences in,
and
say, like California.
And again,
or something, like,
it's all of our right to vote, and I vote, and I'm not blaming them. It's just that's why a lot of times, like living in Des Moines, I honestly was like, wow, this is a really really
gay marriage,
progressive and everything like that. And then the vote happened for governor, and I was like, well, okay.
Why do you got to keep bringing up?
Never mind.
You people are gonna stop listening to the show if you don't shut up about your politics.
Tell me.
Tyler.
Wait, we can have a special segment every week where Jake just tells me what a fucking dildo I am. And
I do that.
Bring the audience back.
I do that throughout the whole show, buddy.
Well, fuck you, dude.
All right, so we're gonna play some clips from the Glenn Beck radio program. This first clip, well, it's hard to explain, but this is from his show on September 2nd, 2015. Glenn's upset about something. I don't know what it is, but let's listen to Glenn.
Evil is rampaging right now. It is beyond anything that I have ever seen anywhere in my life. And if you think it's going to stay put, if you think it's not going to grow, if you think this is as bad as it could get, you are sadly mistaken.
Okay.
If you think this is just going to be
kind of predicted
relegated to the Baltimores and the Fergusons of the world, you're sadly mistaken.
Yeah. He's good at
if
what he
you
does.
think that this is as hard as it gets with the attacks on Christianity, and this is as hard as I've ever seen it, and standing up and saying that you're a Christian. If you think this is you're sadly mistaken. If you think our kids are in school right now, and this is as bad as it's going to get, this is as crazy as it's going to get, where boys who identify themselves as girls, no sex change, no nothing, they just identify themselves as girls, can now go into a girl's bathroom and turn a school completely upside down, and they have the right to do it, and all of the experts come out and say, how dare you even question his feelings. If you think this is as bad as it's going to get, you're sadly mistaken. We are a nation hell-bent on our own destruction.
Yeah,
we are suicidal.
You're fucking right about that.
And all I'm doing is telling you, you're going to be allowed to commit suicide. Nobody's going to punish us. God doesn't have to punish us. All he has to do is let us feel the full ramifications of what we're doing.
Huh?
So,
what did he say? I don't understand what he just said. The last part.
It keeps going.
Did he say we can't commit suicide or we can't? I couldn't.
I don't know. Here's the other clip.
That bridge I've been talking to you about for 15 years. There's a bridge. It's out. We're on a highway going 70 miles an hour. We're passing all the exits. I'm telling you, the bridge is out. And if we don't stop right
get some McDonald's
now
and you missed
and
it.
get out. And I'm not talking
good,
about, you want to talk about Donald Trump. You want to talk about Ted Cruz. You want to talk about Ben Carson.
No,
God
I don't want to
help
talk
us.
about any of those
With
guys.
what kind of world are they going to walk into a year from now? What do you think this country is going to look like 18 months from now when they raise their hand? Do you remember how sane it now seems 18 months ago?
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about.
Evil is counting on you doing nothing.
He's got
Evil
such a
is
good
counting
radio
on
voice.
you, hearing me rant, and then moving on. Your job and
Remember what I
everything
talked
your
about
kids
appealing
do
to
in
emotion?
school and everything
It's
you
all
think
Glenn
your
Beck.
world
and they're
is
great
based
at, like,
upon
the tone and
is
inflection
secondary.
That's what I'm saying. He loves it.
Raising and lowering their voice.
Because our country is suicidal.
Okay.
No, keep listening.
Oh,
And I'm here to tell you Black Lives Matter. That's a lie.
Don't get me started on this.
And I don't care how politically incorrect it ever gets. All lives matter.
Shut up.
Period. All
I hate
lives
that fucking
matter.
white argument about that. Fuck off. Don't get me started on
Yeah,
Black Lives. No.
yeah. It would be different, and we're not going to get on the
No, we are not.
We're not going to get on that topic.
We
but,
do not have an hour for me to go, you fucking... Yeah.
Yeah. I think people just
I support Black Lives Matter,
People-
period. That's it.
people.
That's all you got to know.
Yep. People misinterpreted what that
The
was
other
about.
ones are...
All right. This one, I promise, gets...
Which one is this? Is this Watch Dogs teaches
Watch
you...
Dogs cuts
teaches
2
you-
and 3. So this is...
Watch Dogs
two
teach you
cuts
how
of
to
this.
hack on WFLA Tinfoil Radio.
May 28th, 2014.
Sweet.
Glenn Beck's trying to warn you about hacking. Not that hacking.
The thing that I want to talk to you here is the conversation that we're not having. And the conversation that we're not having as a culture is the role of the internet and
the beginning of this makes some sense.
The busyness of our lives.
And then it gets off the rails.
Well, they all
these
start
video
making
games
sense.
in particular. It's about Ubisoft, which is a
also,
software
I did
company
alter
for
this
video
clip.
games. They do Assassin's Creed.
So I just want people to know I did edit some things.
You're just editing it to make him look bad. Glenn Beck's a real great guy.
Watch
Jake
Dogs
just edited all this
features
shit
a troubled anti-hero named Aiden Pierce. Now, an anti-hero. Have we not had enough? Can we have any heroes? Why must everyone be an anti-hero?
Because of you and your fucking
Why
buddies,
must
dipshit.
everyone break the law and do the thing? Why can't we have a Superman? Why can't we have somebody who is
because it's
doing
boring,
the right
Glenn.
thing,
Holy fuck, man!
does the hard thing? Instead, everybody is an anti-hero. Watch Dogs allow the players to hack into cell phones, ATMs, drawbridges, even helicopters. Through cameras and laptops
I
and
wish you guys could
television,
see Tyler's
players
face.
can peer into someone's fictional files and bedrooms to wholly envelop the lives of others. The game's primary goal is to track down the killers of Aiden's niece and halt a potential evil of the all-seeing corporation.
What the fuck?
The idea here is they're teaching you to hack.
So he's talking about, he is reading a press release about a preview for the game.
What's the game?
Watch Dogs.
Okay.
And this is what I'm talking about. So he starts the
I get
segment
it.
in the
That
right
makes sense.
direction. He makes a good point. He's like, we don't talk about how the internet and all these things control our lives. And he does mention that again towards the end of his little segment. And that,
his rant.
when he talks about that, that makes sense. But to say that these video games are teaching kids to hack is stupid, because there's always been hacking mechanics in video games, and none of them are really hacking. You know how you hack in the game BioShock? You fucking take some tubes and you bend them so the fluid will go in the tube and go in the other end. That's how you hack in fucking BioShock. Never do I do that in real life. I'm not a fucking plumber.
I got 3 kids, and they all play video games like a lot, especially during this quarantine time. And one night, one of them came to me and he's like, "Hey, man," and I'm like, "Oh, what's going on? You're not playing your game?" He's like, "Well, this other player kicked me off our IP. What is it? IP address or whatever? Is that what it's called? IP address?
Well, that's what your internet is,
right?" And he kicked us off. And I was like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "Well, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it."
You're in a lobby usually when.
No, the thing that just is weird to me is that it didn't. To me, it was like, holy shit, what do we do? And he was like, it happens all the time. It happens a lot. And I'm like, really? So they know a lot more about computers. I mean, hacking to us is every day for them.
Yeah.
Hacking to them is alien to us because that's so far ahead of our technological reach and shit.
Yeah, and my generation, millennials, is kind of it is the
You're smarter than me about computers. Your generation is. Hell yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's like the millennials are the generation where that is the start where they will never live their life without computers
Without
or internet,
the internet.
and understanding of it.
Right.
Maybe not everybody, like obviously there's different levels. I'm not going to know everything an engineer knows, but I'm going to be competent enough to figure things out. And I probably wouldn't done that if I were my dad's age, or you're a Gen Zer,
I'm actually technically Gen X, but I do not identify with
I meant Gen X. Sorry, you're a Gen X.
generation,
Gen
if you will.
Z is the generation behind me.
Yeah, it's kind of like horoscopes.
So Glenn Beck continues, and I promise I know these first couple clips are pretty long, but this one's only about a minute and 12.
This is important because we got to understand the insidiousness.
And again, I want to point out I did edit those clips, so I didn't take any thing out to make him look bad or good. All I was doing was just tightening it up.
Oh, so the part where he said "eat your neighbors" was that was you added that?
Oh yeah.
Glenn Beck doesn't.
I took out the superfluous stuff.
I'm gonna eat your ass.
No, dude, if you're gonna say that, you got to get the soundboard. We got a soundboard for
Please
a
do
reason. As Alex Jones would say.
Yeah.
Damn it, my phone fucks up every time I try and do it.
I'll eat your ass.
I will.
I'll eat your ass. I will. I will eat Eat your ass.
And then finally...
I like women with big, giant tits and big asses.
All right, so here's clip number 2.
Candy Charms and Alex Jones.
Here's clip number 2 of the Watchdog segment.
And then become the ultimate voyeur in other people's lives, including their bedrooms, by hacking into their phones.
That's his dream.
And everything that we talked about. When I said, hey, how many times you go to bed at night and have a conversation with your wife or other things at night, and you put your iPad or your phone in the docking station right there at the edge of your bed.
Again, this is not a bad part. This makes sense. I understand,
to
Glenn.
Hack in to whatever is docked in your bedroom. What the heck is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? What are we thinking? We are inviting this into our home and our lives. We are teaching our kids for entertainment purposes. These games rewire your brain. They rewire.
That was him talking to his son.
They
rewire your brain.
Listen to what Pat said.
So does we.
It's really hard.
Oh, here's the best part of the whole clip.
What I said. Or they're going to find him. They're going to find him anyway. Really hard to avoid. And then once you start, it's hard to put him down. Yeah. So is crack cocaine.
Crack cocaine.
Hey, he ain't lying, man. It's a hell of a drug.
I'll tell you this, Glenn. I am not someone who has done crack cocaine. But I am someone who plays a lot of video games. And I will tell you, certain games are hard to put down. And you will play them a lot. I just started playing Red Dead Redemption 2 because it's on Xbox Game Pass. I bought it on my PS4. I didn't have it on my Xbox. I booted it up. And I knew full well what was going to happen. I was going to get stuck in hunting for like 3 hours. I'm trying to find pelts of animals. But never once did I say, hey, I can skin this animal, so I know how to skin animals. Oh, I can hack this phone in this video game, so I know how to hack phones. Yeah. Comparing video games to crack cocaine, seriously. Now, is video game addiction real? Sure. You can get addicted to anything on this planet. But that's so dumb. That's such a dumb... That is the most boomer thing you could do,
You want to know my argument for moderation?
What's that?
Here's my argument for anybody who's like having trouble with moderation. Like, they eat too much, or they drink too much, or they smoke too much weed, or whatever. Think about it like this. How long does an orgasm last? 8 seconds? Like, how long?
Not if you're doing it right. Mine
lasts for at least... The actual orgasm?
Yeah, the orgasm lasts for 20 minutes. I'm just sitting in it. So anyway, yeah, like 10 seconds.
Right. Now imagine that we lived on an earth where we felt that way all the time, and when we had an orgasm, we felt like we do normally here.
Okay.
Now, first of all, you wouldn't know the difference. The two realities wouldn't know the difference. All they would know is that this is normal and this is awesome, But if they switch sides, they'd be like, what the fuck? They'd be going crazy. Like the people who just act normal, us, over there, we'd be like, oh, fuck yeah, We'd go crazy, But if you think about it, if you didn't know that, you wouldn't know what the good is, if you will.
Yeah.
Because you just know, if that makes sense. If you're normal as this, then normal is weird.
I got to say, I heard what you said. But I kind of diverted my attention because I just got a text message from, I'm assuming, the Trump campaign that says, why is Sleepy Joe so weak on China? Maybe because his family is getting rich there. Learn the full story, and then it has a link. And I just thought that would be fun to share with you guys that apparently the Trump campaign is texting me about Sleepy Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Can you believe that we're living in another conspiracy? It's not just COVID. Now it's Obamagate. It's unbelievable. What times to be alive. So let's play our final clip.
You told me to stay off politics, man. I ain't saying shit.
You've learned.
Listen.
All right. So
you
this
don't
last
want
clip.
Me to say shit.
Remember how Glenn Beck said earlier?
Oh yeah, this shit.
That Black Lives Matter is a lie because all lives matter. Blue lives matter. All lives matter.
Again, we won't get into it here, but I'll tell you off the air while that.
So anyway, June 2015, Glenn Beck. Now, keep in mind the context of this. It's because he's mad about gay marriage. Remember the context before we start this said clip.
Our faith requires us to put our Christian belief into action. If you think there's trouble now, what happens if the Supreme Court decides to say that homosexuality, homosexual marriage is the law of the land? Will this administration then force our churches
I don't want to get married in your fucking church, asshole.
Will you be forced to violate your own faith?
I don't want...
No, listen. You got to listen to it.
We must together wake the most powerful force on earth, the people of God. Together we can be an army of good.
Haven't been so far.
And that's why I'm going to begin.
He has really long pauses.
Well, yeah, it's dramatic. Got to collect your thoughts.
Where Martin Luther King began. On 8/28, I'm going to be in Birmingham, Alabama.
Jesus Christ.
In a church just down the street from the building where Martin Luther King began his historic stand against Bull Connor. If you want to join, I'm going to be asking you, in fact, I think it goes out today, to sign Martin Luther King's pledge. Because this is much more than just the Middle East. There's more to this campaign as it will be ongoing, a movement.
That's what I thought,
and we'll begin discussing some of those things on TV tonight at theblaze.com. Because we are going to begin to gather like-minded people, and we are going to begin to train ourselves for nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience.
Yeah, where did that go?
Yeah.
We're going to begin to train ourselves for boycotts and sit-ins.
You have to train yourself.
We're going to do all the things that we all thought were too radical or too hippie-like to do.
This time.
Because we have to understand that we are now David and Goliath has all of the power.
Yeah, wait. We'll tell you when to bring your guns. Not this time. Not yet.
But we all know how that story ends.
So, I don't know where he went with this segment. It starts talking about gay marriage. And then it ends up talking about the Middle East at some parts. I don't know. But let's just... there's so much to unpack with this clip. And this is why I picked it last. Because it's just... This is the one... The other four topics, other four clips, were silly, nonsensical explanations of who he is. I think they were good ways to explain how he can talk about how it's so evil and everything's so evil, and then talk about video games.
Anybody can take... I know where you're going. Anybody can take like MLK or Gandhi or Kennedy and make them out to be whatever they perceive them to be.
This is my thing, and this is what I hate about it.
Glenn Beck thinks that MLK would have been against gay marriage. He's a fucking idiot to think that.
Yeah. The guy who...
An actual idiot.
And that's why, again, the beautiful irony of this clip. And
well, now that black people are free, says MLK, I want the gay people to be oppressed. That's exactly what would have happened.
That's exactly
You're
what
right,
he's
Glenn.
saying.
Glenn, you are fucking...
And that's why it's so funny to me. Because, we're going to go and we're going to be where the man... In case you're wondering,
like, black people have never really been free.
We're going to go and... We're going to be in Birmingham. We're going to be where MLK was when he fought bigotry. We're doing that too, but on the wrong side. Who gives a shit if a gay dude wants to marry a gay dude or a lesbian wants to marry a lesbian? Who cares? Glenn, why do you care? And since then, of course, he softened on that. Because remember, he had to do his apology tour, which we'll talk about in episode 3.
I remember in Sunday school that God is omniscient and all-powerful and all-seeing and stuff. So I just got to ask all these evangelical Christians, what the fuck makes you think he needs your help? At all, motherfucker. Like, you act like he's this little child, like in a little corner, and you have to protect him at all costs. And it's like, the book I read says
if there is a God,
he can strike you down with lightning anytime. So why do you think he needs your dumbass help?
If there is a God, I will say this. Why would he give a shit about gay people getting married?
He made them.
Exactly. It's almost like the Bible was written by people.
It's not a choice. I'm sorry.
It's almost like people ruin religion.
Listen, after the 90th, penis, I realized it's not a choice. I'm still not getting excited.
So that will wrap episode 1 of the Glenn Beck
We can't
story.
go on that. We got to do something else.
What?
Because then the last thing I'm saying is like talking about penises.
No, that's why it's funny.
Oh, well, that's what I usually talk about.
Hey. So yeah, it's gonna get interesting because
wacky.
the next
On
episode
WFLA.
we'll briefly follow his career again, but we're really gonna do similar to what we did with Alex, where we're gonna jump in with so many of his just his greatest hits of conspiracies and
more like greatest shits,
right? Zing. Now again, unlike
Morning
Alex,
Zoo.
this will be a trilogy. This will not be a
Yeah,
quadrilogy.
thank God. Yeah. It won't be like Lethal Weapon. It'll be like Back to the Future.
There you go. But yes, we'll briefly talk about his career, get into his big conspiracies, and then talk about the beginning of his jump to the blaze.
Which again sounds like a bar to go pick up dudes.
So yeah, this is Glenn Beck Part 1. Glenn Beck Part 1.
Part 1.
Beck begins.
You can subtitle it.
Yeah.
Beck begins.
And then Part 2 will be he's not a conspiracy theorist.
He's not?
No. Yeah, there's a clip I have to play next week. You know what? We'll give you a treat. Here's a preview of next week.
We've never done this before.
We've never done it.
Unprecedented.
Stall as I pull up the clip.
So, just real quick, we have a lot of fun here. And, sometimes when we're talking about, I don't want you to know all my politics. I don't. It's not part of the show. But sometimes when we're talking about guys like this, I kind of can't help show my colors. So I do apologize to any audience members that were maybe offended or not appreciative of those comments. I was just talking about the topic, and the topic happened to lead me into the politics. I don't want to do that. Trust me.
No, yeah, we don't. We want to hurt anybody. We exist to make you laugh, and we want to have some fun. And
sometimes these guys piss me off. So yeah,
I agree. Yeah. So here's a preview.
But my bad. Here you go.
Of Part 2.
Yeah.
The media has a storyline and an agenda.
That's
and
not
they
wrong.
will get to it. And they certainly don't want anybody to ever think that anything is ever, planned. They
Who are not
we
poor
talked
people
to somebody, not saying that it
welfare.
was. Again, Wolf Blitzer says that, or his producer said that didn't happen. Okay,
I don't know
totally
the context
cool.
of this.
This isn't a bad thing.
Doesn't
if
really
it
matter
did
with this
happen,
guy.
It is
I've
an
learned that it
interesting
really
angle
doesn't.
to the story. But the media has their own agenda. The media goes for it. And if the media has a storyline, it just writes it in. And currently the storyline is conspiracy theorist. Now, why? Why would that be the agenda item now? Why is it a concentrated effort, more than any other time in my career? Why is it a concentrated effort now to label me a conspiracy theorist?
It's taking a concentrated effort to even listen
to your dumbass. It goes back to Cass Sunstein. It is exactly what he wrote. He said the government should call anybody who stands against them a conspiracy theorist.
Cass Sunstein is who he talks about here.
This isn't a conspiracy theory.
He'll be a big figure next week.
This is what he wrote about. This was his way for the government, and he said, even if it turns out to be true, you have to label people a conspiracy theorist because it isolates them. So that's exactly what's happening now, and I don't really care. I mean, I knew from the 4 years ago, I'm not getting out of this with my name or reputation. That's fine. I know who I am. My family
Which
knows
is funny
who I
he
am.
mentions
My
that
kids know
because
who
he
I am.
goes on an
That's
apology
it.
tour
That's
in
fine.
2016.
You don't believe me? Fine. I don't really care anymore. I'm not really trying to wake anybody up. I'm trying to keep those who are awake a little bit longer.
And that's the end of the clip.
Hey, Glenn. We really do want you to be a part of the CPAC this year.
I got some audio from that.
You're just a hair too racist and homophobic and misogynist. If you can bring it back, like literally, like I don't know, one gay joke, like that's perfect. You are literally like one shade 2 race. Just a little bit over.
So next week,
WFLA.
we will be getting into his biggest conspiracy theories. And let me tell you, they're not, well, I want to say they're not as,
voice.
they're not, well, I want to say they're not as dumb as Alex Jones.
I would say Glenn Beck is like the thinking man's Alex Jones.
Well,
almost.
Next week we're gonna you're gonna find out. Maybe not so much. Thanks for listening to another episode of Tinfoil Radio.
Slightly more sense, but not much.
Yes, next week we'll continue talking about Glenn Beck. In the meantime, you can catch this podcast wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify. Hey, even if you want to, and you're sitting at home, and you're like, I want to listen to this show. I got Alexa. Well, all you have to do is say, Alexa, play Tinfoil Radio. So get that right there for you. You can listen in the bathroom, so you can listen to our shit while you take a shit.
Boom.
Boom.
Let's give a shout out to who gave it to us.
Adam, you know who you are. Grace as well. Adam and Grace been listening to the show. I appreciate you guys. There's your joke.
Me too. Ka-ching. Jake showed me the text thing, and I was like, oh my God, we have fans.
I know, right? People listen?
Oh my God, you guys are great.
Probably not after this week. You can also
listen to that liberal snowflake douchebag Tyler.
If you're someone that likes to have podcasts on in the background on like YouTube or something, we have our episodes up there as well.
I would maybe recommend after the kids go to sleep.
Yes,
a lot of swearing.
Check out Loud and Opinionated's YouTube channel. That's where we put all our videos. And thanks for listening. And remember, more importantly than ever, if you're listening to this,
we're already dead.
What is my problem?